The Emperor of Mankind, often revered with deep faith as the God Emperor, stands as a central figure of the Imperium of Man. His titles include the Master of Mankind, or simply the Emperor, and at times he refers to himself as Revelation. To the forces of chaos, however, he is called the False Emperor or the Corpse Emperor. He is an immortal Perpetual, a being who cannot die, possessing immense psychic power. The Emperor serves as the reigning monarch over the vast galaxy-spanning Imperium, holding authority over billions of human worlds. Within the doctrines of the Imperial Ecclesiarchy and the Imperial Cult, he is portrayed as the father and protector of humanity, a divine figure who guides and safeguards all human life through divine will. To believers, he is both guardian and God, a divine protector who embodies salvation and purpose for mankind. The forces of chaos and their demonic servants, the demons of the warp, see the Emperor as the anathema, a term that signifies a great curse or heresy. This is because he represents order in its purest form, standing as the ultimate obstacle to their chaos and destruction. The Emperor is recognized as the embodiment of universal order in the galaxy. He is, without question, the most powerful human psyche ever born, an individual whose psychic potential surpasses all others in human history. His mastery over the mind has made him nearly unmatched, and his influence reaches into the fabric of reality itself. For over 10,000 standard years, the Emperor has been seated immobile within the Golden Throne on Terra, his body gradually decaying and crumbling with age. Once a living man of great fidelity and strength, his physical form is now a shattered relic of its former self. The body can no longer sustain life independently and is kept intact solely through the advanced cybernetic mechanisms of the Golden Throne. These mechanisms are intricate and require constant maintenance, and his continued existence depends on a collective sacrifice, specifically the energy and life force of thousands of psychers whose souls are drained daily to sustain him. Without this grim and unending toll, his body would decay entirely, and the Imperium itself would falter. His mind, however, remains active and vital, sustained by the incredible psychic force that fuels the entire structure of the Imperium. The choice to sacrifice his own immortality came at a crucial point in history, after the catastrophic Horus Heresy, a brutal civil war that nearly tore the Imperium apart. During this dark period, the Emperor chose to lay down his physical life to protect humanity from further chaos and ruin. Though his body had become an inert shell, his consciousness continues to steer the galaxy of mankind from the Golden Throne. To the trillions of human beings scattered across the galaxy, he is more than a ruler. He is a divine entity, a living God whose prescience sustains their civilization, security, and hope. Under his leadership, humanity remains united, formidable, and expansive. The Imperium has grown into one of the most populous and territorial empires in the Milky Way, driven by the belief in his divine authority and protection. This unity is essential for facing the many deadly threats that lurk beyond human worlds. The galaxy is filled with hostile alien species, lurking and aggressive xenos, fanatical forces of chaos, and internal threats such as heretics, mutants, and traitors. These dangers threaten to annihilate humanity if left unchecked. The Emperor's rule, carried on in his name by the High Lords of Terra and a network of imperial organizations, is both long and harsh. Many see it as necessary for survival, though it often manifests as tyranny and brutality, leading to centuries of social stagnation, cultural decline, and dogma rooted in superstition. The oppressive rule has stifled technological progress and fostered religious fanaticism, a state of affairs that would likely appall the Emperor himself, who once envisioned a more enlightened and free humanity. Despite his physical state, the Emperor remains the psychic anchor of the Imperium's existence. The Golden Throne is not just a throne, but a vital life support system. It produces the psychic beacon known as the Astronomicon, a lighthouse glowing in the Emperor's immense psychic energy. This beacon projects a psychic signal across the warp, the dangerous, chaotic dimension connecting all space, making faster than light travel possible. Without it, ships would become lost or destroyed in the warp, and the entire galactic economy and communication network would collapse. His presence within the warp is crucial, and his mind energy sustains this vital link. The Emperor's psychic strength is so immense that daily, thousands of psykers are sacrificed to maintain it. Each day, roughly 1,000 psykers give their lives to fuel his power, an act of despair that keeps the navigation lights burning across the stars. Though divine and all-powerful, the Emperor's influence extends far beyond mere preservation. It is said that he helps guide the future of mankind through a mystical tool known as the Emperor's Tarot. A selective group of psykers, trained in its reading, claim to gain fleeting glimpses of what's to come, shadows of the future and hints of his divine will. He is also believed to wage ongoing invisible war against the chaos gods of the warp. This cosmic battle prevents the forces of chaos from spilling further corruption into the material universe, protecting all of creation from ruin. His mental vigilance must be ceaseless, spanning the vast reaches of human space to safeguard the race he sacrificed everything to defend. In times of crisis, such as during the Siege of Terror, his presence is felt ever more strongly. It was during that cataclysmic event when Horus the War Master betrayed the Emperor that he was confined to the Golden Throne, fighting to hold back the powers of chaos and traitors. Despite his incapacitation, the Emperor remains the vital heart of the Imperium's survival. The unity, security, and hope of all human worlds hinge on his enduring psychic influence. His divinity is rooted in the collective belief of mankind. The more the people believe in his divine role, the stronger his psychic shield against chaos becomes. It is a faith that has persisted for over 10,000 years, passed down by religious orders, war priests, and common folk alike. The Imperial Creed, an unshakable doctrine, teaches that the Emperor protects, reinforcing his divine power and moral authority. His spiritual presence is the ultimate safeguard for humanity, a beacon of hope amid chaos and ruin that constantly threatens to swallow the galaxy. Without his divine influence, many believe humanity would be lost in the dark. The Emperor is more than just a powerful figure in the history of humanity. He is the collective reincarnation of all the shamans from the earliest days of human existence on Earth. These shamans from different ancient human groups were the first individuals capable of sensing and manipulating the psychic energies that connect to the warp, the chaotic and dangerous realm of the pure psychic force. They were humanity's first psykers, people with immense powers that allowed them to communicate with spirits, predict the future, and influence the world in unseen ways. The origins of the Emperor tie back to a time long before recorded history, in a period where humankind still relied heavily on dreamlike visions and spiritual guidance to survive and flourish. When the Emperor was born, it was in a time before the rise of civilizations, in a period known as the Neolithic era, an era that predates the classical ages or even the Age of Terror. His birthplace was the ancient region of Anatolia, in what is now modern-day Turkey. This was a remote time, around the 8th millennium BC, long before the development of written language or widespread settlement. It was a prehistoric age, where early humans still lived in small clans of hunter-gatherers, often scattered across vast landscapes. The local tribes, with their shamans and spiritual leaders, believed they had a deep connection to the earth and the spirits that haunted the natural world. Before the Emperor's birth, as humankind continued to grow and evolve, the Immaterium, a mysterious chaotic dimension of psychic energy, started to become increasingly unstable. This disturbance stemmed from the collective psyche of humanity itself. As humans developed complex thoughts, emotions, and desires, their mental energy created ripples in the warp. These dark undercurrents of fear, hate, ambition, and greed began to taint the Immaterium. The shamans, once able to die and be reborn through reincarnation into new bodies, started losing their ability to come back as new individuals. Instead, when they died, their souls were pulled into the warp by dark entities lurking there. These entities, known as demons, malevolent spirits born from the chaotic energies of the warp, began devouring the shaman's souls, feeding on their psychic light. Over time, as the shamans of humanity were unable to reincarnate, they faced extinction. Their ancient power, passed down through countless generations, faded away. Without these guiding psychic leaders, humanity's spiritual and mental connection to the warp was broken. This loss made humankind vulnerable to the influence of chaos, the corruption and decay that would eventually poison the mind and soul of civilization. The downfall of the shamans marked a dark turning point, much like what happened to the Eldari, an ancient race whose psychic traditions were lost to chaos and despair. During this dark age, all of the shamans of Earth convened in a grand council, a collective effort to face their impending doom. They understood that their race was on the brink of losing its connection to the divine power of the warp forever. The shamans debated fiercely, longing to find a way to preserve their essence and protect humanity from the corrupting forces that threatened to consume them. They knew that if they failed to act, their souls would be forever lost, and their species would become prey to the insatiable hunger of chaos entities. The decision they reached was unprecedented. Instead of dying separately and leaving behind individual spirits that could be captured or corrupted by the warp, they chose to pool their psychic energy into a single collective entity, an act of pure sacrifice. All the shamans agreed to cease their individual reincarnations and create one unified soul, capturing the combined wisdom, memory, and spiritual strength of their entire lineage. They would create a new human, one that would serve as humanity's guardian and source of hope, what they called the new man. With one last act of collective will, they induced death simultaneously by ingesting poison. Their spirits rushed into the Imperium in a wave of psychic energy. This cataclysmic flow of psychic power was so intense that it temporarily seared through the dark forces of the warp, purifying and cleansing with a fire that could not be extinguished. Their sacrifice forged a single radiant soul from many, a beacon of hope and protection for humanity's future. Approximately 1 year later, this divine being was born. In a modest Neolithic settlement, nestled in the ancient lands of Anatolia, a child was born to normal parents, humble farmers and herders. His birth was unremarkable on the surface, but from the moment he entered the world, a strange and powerful energy radiated from him. The child's immense psychic power was so potent that it subtly altered his very DNA during gestation. This extraordinary force made him effectively immortal. He no longer needed to reincarnate, and his body was resistant to demonic entities dwelling in the warp, which otherwise preyed on mortal souls after death. As he grew, his latent psychic abilities emerged naturally, revealing hints of vast ancient power within him. Over the course of 38,000 Terran years, an unimaginably long span, he wandered across the face of the earth, witnessing and influencing the course of human history. His travels took him through distant tribes and burgeoning civilizations, from the dwindling Stone Age bands to early agricultural societies. As he moved amongst different peoples, he observed their triumphs and failures, their wars and innovations. Although initially just an observer, his wisdom was undeniable. He began helping in quiet ways, imparting knowledge about better farming techniques, establishing more efficient governance, and encouraging technological progress. His influence was subtle but persistent, often guiding leaders and communities towards stability and growth, all without revealing his true nature. As he matured, he adopted many disguises to blend in with human society. Sometimes he positioned himself as a wise elder, a spiritual guide, or a religious figure revered by simpler folk. Other times he became a statesman, a scientist, or an explorer. His presence was as varied as the cultures he visited, at times a humble teacher, at others a towering figure shaping entire civilizations. During times of unrest or war, he would assume the role of a crusader or a messiah, inspiring armies and followers to fight for a greater cause than themselves. At other moments, he worked behind the curtains, advising kings, secretly steering events and shaping history as a master puppeteer does with marionettes. Some of his personas became legendary, heroes, saints or prophets, each playing a part in guiding humanity across a critical path only he could foresee. Throughout the ages, as humankind achieved greater technological and cultural milestones, the warp began to stir with more chaos than ever before. The emerging psychic energies of humanity, combined with its fierce passions and darker instincts, drew malevolent entities from the warp closer to the material realm. The man destined to become the Emperor saw how the darkest aspects of human nature, pride, ambition, violence and distrust, fed the powers of chaos. Despite his efforts to promote peace, harmony and enlightenment, these tendencies proved stubbornly resilient. War, greed and the desire for mastery over others persisted across the ages. He understood these forces, rooted deep in human psychology, made chaos stronger and more tempting. His struggle was ongoing, serving as both protector and reluctant witness to a species teetering ever closer to the self-destruction and damnation. This awareness haunted him for millennia. He knew that unless something changed, chaos would consume mankind wholly, much as it had to other races before. Still, he remained hopeful that humanity could find a way to resist, to create order from chaos. His mission was to guide humanity's spirit from the dark allure of the warp, to preserve the spark of rationality and virtue amid the chaos that lurked within every mind. This understanding guided his actions through centuries of patience and careful intervention. His ultimate goal was clear: to protect humanity from its own worst impulses and to prepare a future where mankind might stand unshaken, a pillar of strength against the encroaching darkness. The efforts of the new man to shape humanity's future often fell short of expectations. Seeds of wisdom planted with good intent sometimes failed to grow at all, or grew into monstrous forms that could not be controlled. Rather than bringing enlightenment, these misguided growths often led to dark periods marked by persecution, war and chaos. The universe sensed the presence of this new figure, the new man, whom chaos would come to dub the anathema. They recognized immediately that his existence posed a threat to their power and influence. His attempts to check their growth and curb their influence threatened the very fabric of their dominion, stirring their interest and hostility. Even before they fully awoke in the depths of the Immaterium, the dimension where they reside, the ruinous powers understood that this man was their greatest enemy. They regarded him as an unstoppable force that could threaten the entire chaos-prone universe they ruled. The first being of the Chaos Gods to emerge fully into consciousness was Khorne, the god of war, bloodshed and violence. His awakening was heralded by a surge of conflict and chaos that swept across the lands, marking the beginning of an age of near-constant warfare. No sooner had he gained full awareness than battles erupted on a massive scale, reshaping nations and alliances alike. The world seemed to respond directly to his hunger for blood and violence, with armies clashing and civilizations crumbling under the weight of endless violence. Following Khorne's rise, Tzeentch, the demon of change and sorcery, gained awareness. His influence spread quickly through political intrigue, secret dealings, and mass manipulation. Nations grew more complex and treacherous as double dealings and secret plots became the normal way of life. Power struggles intensified, often driven by unseen forces pulling the strings behind the scenes. Soon after, Nurgle, the Lord of Decay and Disease, stirred from his long sleep. As he awakened, plague and pestilence swept across continents, leaving death and misery in their wake. Entire populations fell victim to his deadly influence, with sickness killing millions and bringing devastation to all parts of old Earth. The European Middle Ages, already a time of turmoil and upheaval, became a fertile ground for Nurgle's influence. Darkened by the horrors of plague and decay, that era marked a time where his presence was felt most strongly. By the end of this period, the first three major Chaos Gods, Khorne, Tzeentch and Nurgle, had fully awakened, their consciousness expanding across the world. They began to shape history through their influence. The fourth major god, Slaanesh, still slept, their awakening waiting on a different trigger. When she finally stirred, it was the reckless excesses and self-indulgence of the Eldari, a highly advanced and decadent race. Their overindulgence, their hubris, and their obsession with pleasure would serve as her awakening call. Amidst this chaos, the new man's psychic powers advanced rapidly. His growing consciousness made him acutely aware of the many dangers lurking beyond humanity. He saw threats from alien races, corrupting influences, and chaos that could swallow the human race whole. His determination grew stronger, to defend mankind from falling into the darkness and to guide humanity towards a brighter future. The new man aimed to ensure humanity becomes a dominant force in the galaxy, shaping history according to his vision. Over the centuries leading up to the decline of the Dark Age of technology, more humans displayed the mutant psyker genes, traits that granted them the ability to tap into the powers of the Imperium. These gifts, however, came with a heavy price. Uncontrolled psychic activity caused chaos and destruction, often leading to disaster. As these powers emerged unpredictably, panic spread. Civilizations struggled to control these dangerous individuals. The chaos and confusion of this period, known as the Age of Strife, threatened to wipe out humanity altogether. The rise of uncontrollable psykers heralded a future where mankind could be consumed by its own powers, if left unchecked. It was during this time that the Emperor of Mankind realized that he had to act decisively. The chaos from these uncontrolled psychic powers, combined with the instability caused by alien invasions and internal strife, signaled that humanity's survival depended on strong leadership. The fall of the Eldari and the subsequent birth of Slaanesh in the 30th millennium marked a turning point. The chaos of their downfall unleashed new chaos into the universe, and the warp storm's mighty maelstroms of chaos and energy began to dissipate. These storms had blocked all interstellar communication and travel for centuries, leaving humanity cut off from other worlds. With the warp clearing, the time had come for the Emperor to take control once again. He saw that only by becoming more openly involved in human affairs could he prevent total destruction. If he failed to guide humanity now, the race might face extinction, lost forever in the dark chaos of old night. The Emperor understood that humanity stood at a crossroads. If he could not intervene directly, humanity might never recover. His goal was to steer human history back onto a clearer path. He knew that chaos driven by the awakening of the Chaos Gods and the dangerous powers of the Immaterium would continue to threaten mankind's future. Therefore, he resolved to act decisively. The return of the galaxy's communication lines and the end of the warp storms opened a window for him to step into the limelight. In doing so, he sought to save the human race from oblivion, shaping a future where they could become the dominant species in the galaxy. This was the moment he decided to take the lead, no longer waiting in the shadows, but directly influencing the course of history, determined to ensure the survival and prosperity of humanity amidst the chaos.